Three, two, one, roll the footage. Welcome back, everybody, to the Strategy Sprints podcast. I'm your host, Simon Severino, and my guest today is a Queensland University of Technology graduate who opened more than 20 successful and profitable podiatry businesses over his 30-plus year career. He has written 2 books, currently working on his 3rd, and has hosted 2 successful podcasts. Right now, he's refining his group marketing and business programs and online courses. Welcome, everybody, for the 2nd time here, Tyson Franklin.
It is so good to be here, and I love the introduction you do at the start of your videos. That just high-fiving, and I like the that you do at the start.
Right now it feels like, I remember the time when you could touch people.
I know. I thought that when I was watching some of the videos recently, and I saw the high-fiving at the beginning, and I went, "Wow, this can be a while before you see that out on the street again."
Yeah. I don't even remember how it feels to high five people every day.
And I think it's different in different countries. In Australia, we've been very fortunate, especially in different states as well, that our COVID restrictions haven't been so bad because, like in Australia at the moment, I don't think there's any cases in Australia in the community itself.
Look, your fans are coming in already. Albert Johan Kirzinger, funny. Thank you, Albert Johan. If you have any questions, Albert Johan, we are here for you.
Oh, yeah, dive in, ask questions.
Absolutely. And today we talk strategy versus tactics.
Yes.
Let's unpack that.
Okay. Before I get on to strategy and tactics, there's one level above that I picked up at a conference a couple of years ago. And they were talking about, when they're talking about marketing, for example, you've got marketing strategies, marketing tactics, but there's also what they call meta level marketing. And that's your mindset going into your strategy and tactics. So a lot of times people don't think about how your mindset is, and what you're thinking about at the time has a huge impact on how you approach or what strategy you actually choose. So it's the same as if you're under financial strain, your decision-making process will be completely different to when you're flush with money. If you're having, if you've got problems with your health, you've got problems with your family, there's all these other things that can go on that can actually affect the strategies or the tactics you actually choose. So I think that's something that we can't really go into it in detail now, but it's an important thing to remember, that sometimes when you choose a particular strategy or you're choosing a particular tactic, and I'll explain the difference, and sometimes you sit back and go, "God, why did I do that? What was I thinking?" You may not have been thinking at the time. There could have been something else going on that has actually been a big part of that decision process. So that's why I always think when you've got a strategy running or you've got tactics running, is always be reviewing them to make sure that it's still in line with what you originally intended. So to explain the difference between the strategy.
I agree. Before we go in there, I absolutely agree. Mindset changes everything. And before I go into any important call, for example, today it is before I went into this call with you, I did a Wim Hof breathing of 17 minutes to be in the right mindset, to be an open listener. Yes. Before I did that, I was running even before breakfast to bring my body into the right state, because the body can also limit your mindset. If you don't feel well in your body, you might have a specific emotional set that will then again limit your possibilities. So I think mindset is so important.
Yeah, and I find it the same myself. Before I do a coaching call, I don't just finish one coaching call and go and jump straight on the next one. I always leave a break. I always wind down a little bit from that coaching call. And before I do the next one, I will get up and I'll move around and I do some deep breathing. I'll go outside and get some fresh air. And you just get yourself back in that right frame of mind. And I don't think you could ever go onto a coaching call and give 100% feeling flat. I don't think that would be fair on the person that you're doing the coaching call with. So I think that applies to the people you work with. You gotta you've got to constantly, and it's something that you must constantly be working on. I actually have a mindset coach that I've been working with every 2 weeks for probably about the last 7 years. And like I say, the reason I work with it on a regular basis is just because I need to constantly have my head screwed back on. Because my brain, it's like Ricochet Rabbit, goes all over the place. I don't know if you know who Ricochet Rabbit is. Anyone older here will know who Ricochet Rabbit is. But yeah, it's really hard. It's really easy to actually get off track. And sometimes it's good just to talk through things and go, aha, okay, let's get back on track. And one of the big things that this person has said to me recently is every time you're going to do something, and my wife and I were only talking about just before I came on here, is ask yourself this question: for what purpose? So every time you go to do something, you might be going to say, come on a podcast, or you're going to do a speaking engagement somewhere, or you're going to have a meeting with someone, a coffee. Always ask yourself, for what purpose? Do you know what the purpose is that you're doing it? And that has a huge impact on your mindset as well.
I love this question. For what purpose?
It's brilliant.
And, yeah, it's brilliant. And I have a similar one. Mine is, what's the dream? What's the dream, Simon? So for example, my kids, sometimes, they say, oh, I don't want to do this. I want to do that. It takes me half an hour just to put on a jacket with them and to go out. Yeah. This is a typical moment of conflict in my day, when we say, come on, let's get out. And then we start having conflicts. In that moment, I ask myself, Simon, what's the dream? Yeah. And so immediately I am heart-centered and I feel my love to them and what we are going to do outside. And I see us playing in nature. That's the dream, Simon. Okay. And then I immediately am in a different mood. And then I am more patient and I say, okay, it will take 5 minutes more to put on this jacket. Because of this question, Simon, stop. What's the dream right now? And I feel it in the body, in the chest. It's so important. And it's similar to what's the purpose here? So what do we want to achieve? We want to go out and have fun in nature. So why arguing about the jacket?
I know. And it's one of those things that I think even if you wrote it down, if you put it up on your wall somewhere and once a day just kept asking yourself before you started the day, for what purpose? Then, and I've tried to make a habit of like nearly every hour is ask myself, no matter what I'm doing, for what purpose? Because sometimes you'll be there shuffling paper around it and it feels like you're really, really busy. But when you look at what you're doing, you go, you know what? I'm really just wasting time. For what it is I'm doing right now, for what purpose? So to me, I find that question just pulls me in line constantly.
Absolutely. Yeah. So cool. Yes, that is the meta level. And then you differentiate strategy and tactics.
Yeah. So strategy is more along the lines of it's a plan for reaching a specific goal. So you might have a strategy that you want to do something within your business. And so there's a plan to reach a goal. The tactic are the things you do to make that strategy a reality. So, and what happens is a lot of the times people get strategy and tactics mixed up. And I equate it to, and there was a guy, Patrick McFadden, that I had on my other podcast, and we were talking about this, and I was going, this is so great. We were on the same wavelength. And it's like it's like diagnosis and treatment. So think of strategy as like the diagnosis and treatment is the tactics. So imagine walking into your doctor and you walk in the room and you go, yeah, I've got this bit of a problem here in my stomach. And next thing he whacks on a rubber glove and says, bend over. And he's like, all of a sudden, but without even doing the examination, he doesn't put the gloves on and he just goes straight to his prescription pad, starts writing it. So here, you need to take these drugs. And you go, hang on, you haven't even diagnosed what my problem is. And you're trying to give me treatment. That'd be a great way of getting sued. So usually when you see a doctor, they'll put the glove on, they'll examine you, they'll push on the stomach, they'll do all the tests that they need to do. Once they've done all the tests and they've come up with a diagnosis, which is like, if you're looking at your business, what does your business need? So what's the diagnosis of your business? What's the strategy and what's the goal you want to achieve? Only then can you put the treatment plan or the tactics into place. So some people, without even thinking about who is my ideal patient, client, customer, straight away they'll see the guy down the road is advertising on Facebook. Therefore, I should advertise on Facebook. they've got an Instagram page. I should have an Instagram page. So they're diving at all these different tactics without stepping back and going, hang on, what is the goal of my business? What's my strategy to get where I want to go? Maybe Facebook, maybe Instagram are not tactics that I should be taking on. So I always say that with your strategy, it's more along the lines of who and why. Who is it that you want to talk to? Why do you want to talk to those people? And then the tactics are all the what, when, how that you're actually going to basically get. Where are you going to do it? So you shouldn't be thinking about the where or the how, or the where, the how, and the when until you know who and why. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And I remember I had the honor to have a very good first boss. Shout out to Professor Fredmund Malik in St. Gallen, Switzerland. He taught me one very important thing. He said, don't give the clients what they want. And the context is I was a consultant, so as somebody who works directly with the client, and the goal is to make clients happy. Yeah. And he goes, our goal is not to make clients happy. Our goal is to make clients successful. You don't give them what they want. You give them what they need. And that's your expertise to know what they really need. You listen to what they ask, so you hear what they want. But now it's your expertise to do the diagnosis of their system in your head. And he literally said, diagnosing the system, because that was the model that we used, invented by Stafford Beer. And then he said, after your diagnosis, you tell them what the plan is, and then you agree on a common plan. So what they want and what they need is different, and there is a process to get there. And this process is what we call consulting.
It's true. And I've had somebody say to me, sometimes you need to tell them what they want to hear, but you give them what they really need. And you bring in so you're telling them certain things, but you actually give them things that they don't realize they actually need it because they don't know they need it.
Absolutely. And how do you live that in your day-to-day? Do you have like one note that it's called strategy and one note it's called tactics? How do you differentiate? Do you have different meetings?
Is this like if I'm with a client, if I'm talking to a coaching client?
Yeah, also in your team, when you do your marketing strategy, your social media tactics.
Yeah, when I'm doing my sort of stuff, it is I sit down and like even the people that I do coaching with, some of the people that like I do this 12-week podiatry business reboot. And it was taking like the best of what I thought from my podiatry clinic. What will give podiatrists the biggest bang in the shortest period of time that they'll notice the biggest difference in the practice, whether they're been in it for 20 years or whether they've been going for a week. The strategies I put in place for them, it just works regardless of how long you've been doing it. And there's tactics sort of that are built into it. But what I've noticed is I tend to attract a certain type of podiatrist that I suppose a certain personalities would just gel. So when I sit down and work out what's the strategy for my business, I really spend a lot of time on the who. Who is it that I actually want to work with? And I do it. And why do I want to work with them? I like having fun. I just think if you're not having fun with what you're doing, then I used to work on a chook farm killing chickens. And it was not fun. And I know why it wasn't fun. So, and I've had some other jobs where they just were not fun. So majority of the time I was doing podiatry, it was fun. Now that I'm doing coaching, to me, the big part of why I do it or who I work with really matches with why I do it is I want to work with people that also fit the same sort of culture as me. And I think that's
from Roman Zilek. What if your diagnosis is not generally applicable? Do consultants own their failures, often showing up only years later?
Yeah, I don't think there's ever. I've never worked with anyone that I would sort of say, "Geez, we failed," because I think if you do the groundwork, to me, it's like you put really good foundations into a building. You don't have to worry about the foundations. Other things might go on. My car might drive on the side of the house and might damage it, but the foundations are always going to be strong. So I think a good business coach or consultant will get the foundations right, because I've worked with people, we've put really good foundations in, and then they've gone off and done their own thing and their business has gone great. And then I might bump into them, a couple of years later, how are things going? They go, oh, geez, it's really quiet. And I go, well, you still doing this? No. You still doing this? No. But the foundations are still there for a really good business. They just need to go back and start doing the things that actually worked. Because sometimes people just forget. And that's why do I still have like Zig Ziglar used to say it best. Yeah, why do you need to bathe? What did he say? Motivation is like bathing. You need to do it every day.
So, I have even bad diagnosis, so I can add something to Roman's question, because I have given bad diagnosis and I have learned from that. For example, when 7 years ago I did the go-to-market strategy with one of the biggest automotive companies, we just really underestimated Tesla and overestimated European competitors. So now 7 years later, this was just wrong from our side and from their side. We did not challenge them enough. Now, what I have learned from that? I have learned from that whatever we advise is an assumption, and every assumption needs to be validated with numbers.
Yeah.
So what we do now is we still diagnose and have assumptions, but we treat assumptions as such. So every 7 days, we measure every assumption. We write it down. It's either a marketing assumption, a sales assumption, or an operations assumption. We write them down. We do stuff to find out if they work or not. We call these experiments. Yeah. And then every 7 days, we measure this. And so many times, Roman, we see after 7 days that it's a wrong assumption. And this is what we came up with right now, which is from the agile world, is how to make it in very small chunks and really measure often your assumptions. So yes, there are failures. And what we do is to catch them quickly so that we can adapt many times. In our 12 weeks programs, we have 12 times one measurement, so we can adapt many times. Hope that helps.
Can I add something there too?
Yeah.
That when you said about, as soon as you mentioned numbers, and that's a big thing that I'm always talking to clients about, is having a dashboard and looking at different numbers of your business. Don't make decisions based on emotion or always just assumptions. Let the numbers do the talking, because sometimes you might have an idea or a strategy and you go, I actually don't think this is going to work. But you know what? We're going to run with it just to see what happens. And you might agree that, okay, we'll do it for a little bit, see what happens. And all of a sudden, the numbers are telling, my God, this is a great idea. And then you just keep running down that path. So like that, let the numbers do the talking. That is the big.
Yeah.
And the numbers, when you know the numbers remove emotion. Because sometimes
let the numbers do the talking. I love it.
Yeah, boy, they say when emotions are high, intelligence is low. So sometimes you've just got to be careful.
And you have now the experience of running over 20 businesses, and you are now writing your next book. What is your next book about?
Oh, the next book? Well, the first book was called It's No Secret There's Money in Podiatry. And what's funny, it's not the book isn't about making money. The book is about having a great business. And if you do that, the money will come. The second book I wrote was an offshoot of the first one called It's No Secret There's Money in Small Business. And the reason I wrote that, and I tell you, everyone that reads that book just is one of the best business books they've ever read. The only reason it hasn't sold 1 million copies is if I got Anthony Robbins' face and stuck it on the front cover, it would sell 10 million copies and Oprah would be talking about it. But unfortunately, it has my head on there, so that doesn't really interest anyone. The third book, though, I'm going back to the podiatry side of things, and it's going to be called The Happy Podiatrist. Because a lot of the talks I've been doing recently, I sort of figured out until you get, there's like 5 stages that I class that people go through. And it's like, they're a student to start with, and they're like an optimistic student. And then they're an enthusiastic graduate. which is what normally happens. You're a student, then you graduate, so you're now qualified in the world's your oyster. You get all pumped up about it. Then at a certain point, you become what I call a frustrated clinician. Or you could be a frustrated business consultant, frustrated accountant, frustrated lawyer. I think everybody hits this wall at a particular time that you get frustrated, disillusioned. Is this the profession they should be doing? Maybe I should go and do something else. And people do three things at that time. They quit and they go into another profession. They go through the same process and they end up frustrated, but just with a different title. They hang around and so the second thing is they hang around and become bitter and twisted. So they're the ones that will stay in a profession or an occupation and bitch and complain about everybody else who must be breaking all the rules, because why are they successful and I'm not? So they just don't get it. And then the third group who realize, I'm frustrated, I need to make a change. And this comes back to the mindset again. Once they start seeing and looking at things differently, they then go to the next level, level 4, which is what I call happy. So level 5 is thriving. I call it a thriving podiatry business, but it could be thriving any business. But you can't go from frustrated to thriving without finding your happy zone. And I think in every business, every industry, every occupation, there's certain aspects of it that make you happy. And it's up to you to find what they are. And when you find what they are, your goal then is to spend more time in your happy zone. And you also need to identify what makes you unhappy. So spend more time in your happy zone, less time in the stuff that doesn't make you happy. Now, it doesn't mean it's not like a utopia that you live in this world and you're gliding through it all day. It's like yin and yang. There's ups and downs. There's always going to be challenges. So it's not every day is going to be perfect, but you'll spend more time in that happy zone than you do in the unhappy zone. So that's what the next book is all about, is actually taking people through that step and identifying how to find your happy zone.
I love it. And this is an important question, when to give up and when to stay in it, but change the perspective. Otherwise, as you say, you will repeat the same thing in the next context.
I've seen people do that. I've seen people change careers. Yeah, they're in their late 40s or 50 years of age, and they've changed careers 3-4 times, and they hit that wall, and instead of realizing they've got to overcome that to be able to go to that next stage, they give up, they go back, they do it all over again, and they just keep repeating the same process, and they end up very grumpy people. Life's too short to be grumpy.
Absolutely, and it's toxic for the team. So we cannot allow that as leaders.
Well, one of the things I talk about is I'll say when I'm doing some of my talks, some people say, "Oh, I'd be happy if I had a better team." You go, no, you have a better team if you were happy.
As soon as you add "if" to happy, this is the formula for unhappiness.
Yeah, that's it. So they put all these provisos on. I'll be happy if do, but they don't realize. Hang on, if you're happy, all those things will actually happen. So yeah, it's just a different way of thinking. So I'm actually I've started writing it, and it's fun, and it's different to what I've done before. So the goal is to get it done before the end of the year.
It's strong, and I'm sure you know this joke, because I was a consultant all my life, so I was hearing this joke all the time. And it is, the consultant comes to his friend is fishing in Greece, and this friend says, "Well, consultant, what will you do with all this money then?" And he goes, "Well, I'll go fishing." And I say, "Well, I am there."
Yeah, I've got a friend who calls me, he always refers to me as the Mexican fisherman. And because it's that whole story about the Mexican fisherman who's fishing on the beach, loving life because he does something so well. And an entrepreneur comes along and says, "But you know, if you did this, that you could be making millions." And he goes, "Yeah. And what would you be doing if you had millions?" He said, "I'll be on the beach drinking Coronas, fishing." Exactly what he was already doing. And I think sometimes we keep pushing with something that we think is going to make us happy. We don't realize all we're doing is working ourselves into an early grave.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, what do they say? You got to slow down to speed up.
And I am so curious now, your next book, how you are planning the strategy, and tactics to promote it. But after one word from our sponsors.
Yes.
Hey, if you love what you are hearing, you will love our free masterclasses. Go grab them at strategysprints.com.
So your next book, how to make it a success like the others, and what's both your strategy and your tactics going forward?
Okay, the book is going to be really simple to market. It's like my first book, It's No Secret There's Money in Podiatry. I wrote that in 2014. I wrote the second one in 2017. The first book outsells the first one probably 5 to 6 times more every month without fail. Even the publisher says to me, I cannot believe every month you still sell 10, 20 books a month of your book from 2014. That's a podiatry book. It's just amazing. So when I'm writing the Happy Podiatrist, I know who I'm marketing it to. I'm going to market it to podiatrists. So the strategy is to get that book into the hands of podiatrists. That's the goal. And why? Because I know how much it's going to benefit them. But it's also by them reading it, also sort of aligns you. It sort of just gets you in front of the podiatrist more often. So, and the tactics, the what, where, and how. It's really easy to find. Podiatrists hang out on podiatry pages on Facebook. It's really they go to conferences, which we don't have physical ones as much anymore. So I actually did a talk in Atlantic City 2 years ago, and I had a podiatrist. I had this podiatry magazine, and somebody said to me, "So, if you were looking for podiatrists, how would you find them? How would you be able to get in front of them?" And I had the magazine. I held this magazine up. I went, "This is like the main magazine that every podiatrist in America would actually be looking at." So if you got in there, say for example, with the book, it's not hard. So therefore, the book would come out, and you'd talk to the magazine. Hey, does somebody want to do a review on the book? And that's pretty much why the first one took off so well initially, was just being where podiatrists were, letting them know the book existed. And it's not going to be one of those books that a mechanic it's not going to be in a bookshop, because even if it was, a mechanic's not going to go, "Oh, the Happy Podiatrist, that looks like a book for me." So it's niching it down. And that's what we spoke about last time I was on here, was about finding your niche, finding your place. And I even did that with coaching. I was coaching people in different businesses and other sectors of the health industry. Then all of a sudden I realized podiatry is my niche. There's not a lot of podiatry business coaches and consultants. There's not a lot of podiatry business coaches and consultants that have been around as long as what I have, and have sort of achieved what I've achieved. So I'm thinking I should stick in the area where I think I'm going to add the most value. Doesn't mean I can't come onto a podcast like this and we talk about stuff, and I know someone will listen to some of the things that you've said and I've said. They'll go, yeah, that was great, and they've taken some great notes from it.
And so you will post in podiatrist groups of other people, or in your group, or in both?
Oh, a bit of both. So you might be I've got like a group called the Podiatry Business Owners Club. It would go into there. I've got Podiatry Legends podcast page. I would be posting on there. I'd be posting on my personal page, because I do know there's a lot of people who are smart enough to realize, read books outside of your industry. So I've picked up dental books and read business dental books, and it applies to every industry. So I would put my time and effort into promoting it where I think podiatrists are going to be, but it doesn't mean that I wouldn't delve outside of there to another area. And I remember once I was at a conference and I had my podiatry one there, and there was a general practitioner walked up. I said, "Oh yeah, I was looking at your book, but look, I'm not a podiatrist, so it's not for me." And I just went, "I tell you, if you read it, it'll change your life." So, but there's a lot of podiatry groups, UK Podiatry, there's the American Pediatric Medical Association. So because all those groups are out there, and the idea too is get the book in the hands of the right podiatrists. Yeah, there's some very, very influential podiatrists in the world. You get the book in their hand and get a photo of them with the book, and straight away people go, "Wow, that book must be worth reading," especially if they endorse it. And most of us, we all help each other out, which I think is great.
How you get them to endorse it? Do you know them already? Is it a cold approach?
Oh, I know them already. Most of the podiatrists that a lot of the people would know, I probably know most of them already through social media. I've met them personally. So there's a certain group of them that I would send a copy of the book to and just say, hey, here's my latest book, and I'd send it to them. And most people are very grateful and will usually take a photo with the book and post it. So, because like, there's about 6 podiatry books that have been sent to me. And whenever I receive them, I always let people know, hey, such and just sent me this book. And I think if it helps them in some small way, that's great. Not saying that I'm an influencer at all. I'm not. I just do what I do.
What are you excited about looking forward? Where is your business in 3 years?
In 3 years, I can see some of the stuff where I've been doing this 12-week podiatry business reboot. I know that there's some people that would probably like to do it that haven't been able, the time hasn't lined up. So I want to take some of my marketing courses that I've been doing online. Some I've done live. And I want to start creating more online courses that people can just do in their own time. So I can see down the track, I think that will be a big part of my business, is creating online stuff that people can do in their own time. But also I created this group called the Podiatry Business Spartans. And they're a small group of podiatrists at the moment who have gone through the 12-week reboot and I've invited into this group at the end. And they're all very like-minded. I just get so motivated talking to them all. They all motivate each other. So I can see that group being in 3 years' time bigger than what it is now, but still only like-minded people in there. And I think I'll be spending a lot of time actually in that group with those people, having fun.
Absolutely. Where can people stay in touch with you and with your journey?
Oh, easiest way, if they go to my website, tysonfranklin.com. That's easy to remember. And just find me on Facebook, Tyson E. Franklin. I'm a friendly guy. So if you're a normal person and you send me a friend request and you say, hey, I saw you on the video on Strategy Sprints, then I'll accept the friend request. So that's probably the easiest way.
Thank you so much, Tyson, for being on the show, and please come back soon.
No, this has been great. Thanks again for having me on twice.
Avoid trying to do thousands of things that doesn't work. We have 274 templates for your business success. Reach your ambitious goals with one-on-one sprint coach. We double your